The text is a story of Zechariah in the Gospel of Luke. All I remember about the TV series Dragnet was the thumping bum, ba-dum, bum of the theme song, and the gravelly monotone voice of ace detective Joe Friday. This is the city, Los Angeles. I work here. I'm a cop. The stories are supposedly taken from case files, if we're to believe Joe, with the names changed to protect the innocent. But there's only one episode that I remember vividly. When I looked it up, it aired December the 2nd, 1967. A priest in a poor mission parish in the San Fernando Valley calls Los Angeles Police Department because the baby Jesus has gone missing from the creche, which sits at the front of the sanctuary. The figure isn't valuable. In fact, most of the characters look well worn, with a few chips missing from Joseph's small shawl, and Mary's got a few scuff marks herself. But its old familiarity is what makes it so meaningful to the congregation life. It's just always been there. And it's Christmas Eve. Well, you know Joe, along with his trusty sidekick Bill Gannon, he checks pawn shops and interrogates altar boys, and nothing. They're about to leave, promising the priest that they'll keep looking, but saying that it's unlikely they'll recover the infant by Christmas Mass, which is now only hours away. When the big wooden doors of the old church bang, and a little Hispanic boy pulls a red wagon that clunks its way to the front of the church with baby Jesus' cargo. He tells the priest that he's prayed for years for a red wagon, and every year nothing. But this year, he prayed to baby Jesus and told him that if he got the wagon, he'd give him the first ride. His name is Paquito, and he's maybe 5 years old. And it turns out that local firemen repair old toys for poor children, so he got his wagon early. So Jesus did too. It's a lesson in anticipation, that episode, which is what we do in Advent. We anticipate Christ born among us, and our being made new too. How what is old and worn in our souls gets sloughed off, and we rediscover God's presence among us, fresh. Maybe or maybe not how we expected, but altogether alive. It's moments like this that children help us as we make our way toward Christmas, not because they're waiting for Santa and what toys Santa will bring, although that's fun, but because they are still able to anticipate things that we do not understand are still possible, like taking the Christ child for a spin in your new little red wagon. And anticipating is just so much better than waiting, just sitting waiting with precious little hope in sight. Anticipation is the sort of thing we grown-ups talk ourselves out of in the name of practicality or realism, or just too darn much practice protecting ourselves from disappointment. Too much hoping can do that, you know. We tell ourselves, one must be careful. But what if we just allow God to surprise us? Open ourselves up so that God may come closer than we even imagined and surprise us. Anticipation gives us a head start, which seems to be Zechariah's problem today. He's not big on surprises. He's old, he says so. He's been in this business of priesting for decades. He knows all the to-dos. Light the lamps full of pure olive oil. Ignite the incense, a mix of 5 carefully selected spices. He moves deftly from one task to another without even thinking about it, just going through the motions. It's all predictable. It's all routine. He's done this ritual 1,000 times. The hum of the prayers of the gathered multitude on the other side of the curtain are a choral backdrop as he goes to the altar that sits closest to the Ark of the Covenant, where it's said that God dwells, and he drops incense on the hot coals. It's about then he sees the angel, and it's not just any old angel, by the way. It's Gabriel, one of the archest of angels who is frequently handpicked by God to carry mysterious messages from heaven to earth. An angel whose name we even know. Right out of the blue, Gabriel is standing there big as life, And he tells Zechariah not to be afraid. Instead, to prepare himself for joy and gladness. Joy and gladness because there's a baby on the way. A brand new baby. That is new life at its fullest. A baby who will grow up to turn the hearts of people from the very old to the very young and everyone in between to God, and who will prepare the way for God to come closer to us than ever before, nearly scaring old Zechariah out of his wits. Now let me make one suggestion should an angel ever tumble into your prayers. Behave like your mother used to tell you. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Because all Zechariah can do is stammer out objections, and he has lots of those. How I know this is so. Did I mention that I'm old? That my wife is old? I mean, we're pretty settled in our ways now, you see. This is a long ago prayer that Gabriel was dredging up this morning, one that has been safely tucked away for decades so it can do no harm. He and Elizabeth, they've learned to live with disappointment. And it's not so bad once you get used to it. Life's got routine to it. It's predictable and familiar and safe, so why show up now? Stirring up old hopes and making promises that sound unbelievable. But that kind of talk doesn't go down well with Gabriel, who's come all the way from heaven for this chat. When Zechariah protests, well, he just says, I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and this is good news. All the way from heaven to you, whether you think so or not. Leaving the old priest, his words, not mine, speechless, literally mute, unable to make a sound until he's singing to the neighbors a song of praise to God as he holds his newborn son in his arms 9 months or so later. So much for going through the motions now. We're talking nighttime feedings and washing out diapers and baby-proofing the cupboards, and we're talking making a way for God to break through to us that practically ensures we'll respond with love. Zechariah is a high priest, and quite frankly, even he's a hard sell. His religion doesn't leave much room for anticipating how his own faith may come to life all over again, but now he's got lots of quiet time to mull it over. We may smile at his befuddlement because he's not unlike us. It's funny how we're all surprised when God surprises us. Because surprise is sort of God's MO, yet we seldom anticipate that God will actually surprise us. Partly because God's surprises involve wildly unpredictable things. But surprise is the norm in this faith of ours. But we seem to forget that until an actual surprise drops in our laps and we're not sure what to do. We're wanting to tame it, tidy it up, make it routine, get it under control. But in this season, surprise is at the very heart of things. We have a God who comes to us, a God who comes to us and who continues to come to us, however long it takes, over and over and over.